music. Okay. Hey, welcome back. Thanks for coming. It's the Hotline Show. It's the 18th one. Today is June 30th, 2024. We're into summer now. It's going fast. End of the year is upon us. If you don't know, this is the Hotline Show, and the way it works is people call the number. It's in the description, or record a voice memo and email it to me. And just ask a question, whatever's on your mind. Can have to do with photography. Usually that's what people ask about, but other things like the meaning of life or chickens or what a good movie might be, maybe. Did you see the debate the other day? Oh God, we're so fucked. I mean, we're going to end up having to stick with them, but no one wants it. We have to pretend that anyway, let's talk about what else is going on here. I got a new paper cutter. I've been wanting this kind of maybe for 20 years, and I don't know why I never really pulled the trigger on a good one. I cut prints manually, X-Acto, and a ruler. I also have one of the chomper things, but it's just not accurate. And finally, I was just like, why don't I buy this real paper cutter? And I did, and it's amazing. And I think, it's one of those things, like most things in, business, photography, studio world, you get what you pay for. I think years ago I bought a cheap one and it sucks, and that's why I never wanted to use it, but I invested. It's not even that much relative to the time that you save. But yeah, I got a paper cutter and so good. That video that I played in the beginning, that was 11 years ago, before I redid the studio. And we're going to get into that in a minute. But we only have 3 calls today. 3 fun calls. So let's do it. This one won't take too long. Let's go. First caller.
Hey Noah, how you doing? This is Gordon. I'm calling from Spain, actually, although typically I live across the river from you in upstate New York. So, hey, how's it going? My question for today was, where did the intro music come from? What's the backstory? It sort of takes me back to being a child and watching Reading Rainbow, actually. There's something about that little riff that's like that first chunk of Reading Rainbow before they start singing. And for some reason, it gives me this sort of Pavlovian response, like I'm going to learn a lot. And I like it, but curious to hear more about it. My other question is, do you have any other YouTube channel recommendations? Recently, my wife and I, of course, your show and others, maybe there's some other recommendations you have. I'd love to get plugged into any, or maybe there's other callers that can call in and share their favorites, because I've enjoyed being a part of this kind of little community of YouTube creators and would love to see more and support more people. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon.
Gordon, thanks for the call. Gordon from Spain, but really actually across the river, upstate. If you were across the river, that means you're in Pennsylvania. Is that upstate? Do you call upstate Pennsylvania? If you lived in Pennsylvania, would you say I'm going upstate? I wouldn't. But that's cool you're in Spain. I hope it's really nice. I've heard great things. Regarding the intro music, that is a song by a guy named Addy Goldstein. And I just found it using the website Artlist. That's where I get the music that I will play in the background of these songs. It's basically a subscription fee. I don't know, it's like $15 a month, and it allows you to use music without any rights issues. So as long as you're paying for the service, you can put it on your YouTube, your Instagram, and you won't get flagged as copyright whatever the fuck, which is a big issue for me and the internet for years. We're not going to get into that. We've sort of touched on that in the past. But yeah, I will go through their sounds and their music. I love ambient stuff, especially to lay behind a lot of the visuals that I make. And I just found that one and it just felt right. I started using it regularly for the Hotline show a couple months back. I think I was switching it up a little bit, but that one does feel the most correct for the show. And yes, it definitely does have that Reading Rainbow beginning part. I don't know how to describe the musical language that it expresses there, but I did play it back to back. I would play it here, but I don't want to because I'm scared that I'll get a copyright.
Butterfly in the sky.
But yeah, it's super similar. I don't know, it wasn't really intentional, but I'm sort of glad it works out. I mean, I think people have said that my intros and a lot of my videos are sort of like Mr. Rogers-esque, and I think that's cool. I would love to be sort of a Mr. Rogers for adults. So, you know, if that's conjuring that, that's amazing. Look at how foggy it is now. Maybe I cut this in to what I did before. I mean, it's perfect now. It's perfect to give the tour of the trees, the elements. So that's really the story behind the music. I'm glad you like it. Regarding the YouTube recommendations, so that's a good question. And I mean, I guess I do watch a bunch of YouTube, but I end up finding certain things that I like, and then I just like binge on a million of those people's videos. So I'll go through a few. I don't love to recommend things because things change over time, and like maybe I like something now and it turns super cringe later and then it looks bad in retrospect. But I'll go through a few that I like and hopefully it inspires you to look them up. I think what works best though is just stumbling upon stuff, and obviously there's algorithmic things that happen, and then you just click on something and you're like, whoa, what is this? And then you just go into a rabbit hole and you just stick with this person forever or for a few months, and then you give up and you move on, and then you forget that person even existed. But here's a few that I like right now, and I wrote it down because I knew I wouldn't remember. Okay, I'm cutting in here because this episode is kind of crazy. It went on really long, like 30 minutes plus. I went so long my camera stopped recording. So even the last question gets messed up. And there's just a bunch of technical problems that happened. And I was spending all day trying to fix it, but then I ate a weed gummy and I just like got so stoned, and I'm not even sure what I should do here versus there. But what I do know is I recommend a bunch of YouTube channels, not a bunch, a good handful, but it goes on for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to cut that out now, putting it at the very end. And I'm just going to go to the next question. If you want to see the recommendations, skip to the very end. I actually made it black and white, and I think I like that. Maybe I'm going to do everything black and white now. I'm not sure. But we're going to Peter from Germany next, and then you'll probably see me one more time.
Hello, Noah. It's Peter from Germany again. I'm back with another question or two. Okay. How often do you think about the what-if scenario that you played out by creating alternative timeline Noah? This summer, I think about regret a lot, so I was wondering if you do too. The world is burning, and I feel like I am wearing polyester. Also, I was wondering, who is your favorite Batman? Mine is Christian Bale. Okay, thank you.
Peter from Germany again. Thank you for calling. I appreciate it. As always, when we don't get that many calls, I know I can count on you to come through, usually on Friday. Regarding alternative timeline Noah and how often I think about him. Well, for people who don't know, alternative timeline Noah is the version of myself that didn't go to art school and instead took a more traditional approach to life and work and went into finance and has a family with kids and goes on vacation and does what might be considered normal things. Now, I I probably think about that kind of lifestyle fairly often. It's not that I don't like the lifestyle that I created for myself, but man, it's such a roller coaster ride to live in this kind of world. And it's like a constant hustle and grind and gig to gig and projects and highs so fucking high, but then the lows are just deep and dark and long. And that's fun. And oftentimes I can't even imagine living any other way, certainly not with like a real job. But lately I wonder, especially as I've gotten older and I feel like getting injured and things like that, it's like how much longer do I have to do this, or like just to sustain. And it's not because I don't want to make new work, it's just because the chase to have to make work to make money is just endless and relentless. And it's not like I saved up a huge reserve of cash and I can just retire, where many people who did more traditional things might have done that and feel good about potentially retiring. There's no retiring here. It's just not possible. I mean, obviously we create forever, but how do you create forever and then live? And we need money. So that becomes wearing and grinding. And how many more projects do I have to come up with that I can monetize? How many more rabbits do I have to pull out of the hat? That's the grind. That's what's like really wearing on me lately, and why I think about that alternative lifestyle a lot, and how maybe I would have been happier if I did that. Probably not, but the grass is always greener. It's tough. I don't really know, I just, no one likes to hear people like complain about money. So, it's gross, especially from an artist. Like it's supposed to be magical. Like how do they do it? Family money. Not here. No. So, it's just fucking hard. And yeah, like you said, feels like the world is burning. I'm sorry, Peter. It feels that way for you in Germany. Not up to date with German politics. But I hear it's sort of, I mean, I think there's a lot of these sort of, Western democracies are shifting right drastically lately, and it's super fucking depressing. And it's like, how do we move on with this? Feels like we're just losing. When it felt like there was a time where it felt like we were kind of winning. But maybe, maybe it's just a pendulum. Maybe let's hope that pendulum doesn't swing too far to the right, that we can't ever grab it back. That would be terrifying. But, I mean, certainly when I started my career, I started in a right-wing administration in the United States. And then we had the Obama years, those 8 years, which really felt like the peak of everything. I mean, it was my peak lifestyle, money and work and my body, like just, it was 2008 to 2016, I think. Yeah. Is that right? Maybe. But I guess we got complacent during that time, and just we thought it would be that good forever. And like nothing lasts forever, which is also very depressing, because how long do the good things last? I don't know. Maybe not long enough, or maybe it is, I don't know, 10-year cycles, 20 years, generational cycles. Regarding Batman, yeah, Christian Bale is definitely the coolest Batman, for sure. I mean, just those were the best movies with Christopher Nolan. But my personal favorite Batman is Michael Keaton, just the late 80s, early 90s Batman, because that was when I was a kid, and that's when like I feel like the modern version of Batman emerged. So to me, Michael Keaton is like the one for me that feels like the one I relate to the most. And also, I just liked how he was like a normal guy. Christian Bale is like a model human. He's perfect, right? But Michael Keaton is just like a guy. And I think that's kind of cool for a Batman character, you know? Less movie star, more just like, I like that back in that era of movies where the main male movie star was just like a regular dude. So that's it, Peter from Germany. Thank you so much, as always. Last call.
Hey Noah, it's Peter from Texas again. I was curious, in an episode a while back, you talked about how you built out your studio from an existing barn on your property, and was curious what you found most fun and most frustrating about that process of building it out and designing the space. I know as someone who likes to photograph environments and spaces, that we think a lot about sort of the settings that we reside in. And myself, having been an architect, like I'm in building a space right now, you can get really obsessive really quick and go far down a rabbit hole. Your studio seems really well set up and a fun place to spend time in. So I would just love to hear more about your experience with that. Thanks as always for the videos. I'm finding them really great material to turn to when I'm procrastinating on doing some work or anything that I don't really want to do. So I hope they continue, and just know that they're really appreciated. Thanks.
Peter from Texas. I had to adjust the exposure again. Is that too much? Hold on. Looks like it's too bright. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Peter from Texas. Thanks for calling again. Great question. By the way, I know your work. I'm not going to dox you, say who you are, link to you, but I obviously know you. Your photography, your architectural photography is as good as it gets. I know you might have said you stepped away, but you know, if you get those gigs, just do it. I mean, isn't it great to be able to get sent to go photograph spaces? It's amazing. But yeah, your stuff is perfect. Regarding the studio here, now we saw that intro video of the studio before I started construction. And when I came in, I took a photo of what the studio looks like now from this direction, and I'll put it up. Now take a look at what it looked like before I did the renovation, this photo. So pretty significant overhaul. Now, this could be its own episode all by itself. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on about what it was like doing the construction of this barn, converting it into this studio, and then even making the extension. I don't know how long I should go. I'm just going to go. We'll see. Maybe people will check out, and that's okay. We'll see. But what was the most fun and versus most frustrating? Well, I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's fun making things, right? It's fun coming up with an idea and then just going for it. Like, that is so fun. You know, they're building something out of nothing. Now, there obviously was something here, but it was just an empty pole barn, gravel floor. So I knew in my head what I wanted it to look like. I drew it up on a napkin, and then I but I like Googled for local contractors, and I got a couple quotes. Got 3 quotes. One was 10, one was 15, one was 60. Now, there's a big price range. I didn't go with the 60 grand because, hold on. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know. My camera just decided to shut off. Is it recording now? I don't know. Yeah, it's recording. This does go on a little bit, but I think it's okay. You know, Peter, I hope you stick with it. we're going to go on a little bit. I don't even fully know if it answers your question. I also just want to address the time lapse of myself painting the studio. I was doing that yesterday and I only did one part. So it was kind of hot and didn't want to push myself too much. So I'm going to do that over a period of time. Painting, I'm just going to say, that's one of those things where it just seems so easy. And then it's just not. And I think it's one of these things where it's fun, but it's also painful. And I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes maybe that's just worth paying other people to do. But then there's also something really satisfying about it. Anyway, that was on my mind. Going to go back to answering the question. I went with the $15,000 quote. Guy seemed like best option. I liked his vibe, or at least at the time. Of course, it turned into a fucking nightmare. He never showed up. He just had other people come and do the stuff. That said, like, what did we have to do in here? We just needed to pour a floor, put up walls, cut in doors, insulation. It wasn't that complicated. We had to run electricity to the place. And when all was said and done, it worked and it's held up actually surprisingly well. I mean, it's been 11 years, almost to the day from when I broke ground on this. Okay, yeah, I had to put my glasses on here. I am out of focus. After the camera shut off, and even though it's set on manual focus, it shouldn't change how the focus operates when the camera turns off. But for whatever reason, it's probably because it's a fucking Sony. I have no idea. But it went out of focus and I didn't check it. So I'm slightly out of focus. I know it's annoying. Maybe, hopefully you're just listening. But it comes back into focus later. I'm good at like the big picture. It's like I know exactly what I want in my head. But then when it comes down to the finishes, and I think this is where, you can go down that rabbit hole. It's like the choices, right? Like what kind of trim or what kind of light fixture, there's so many things. And a lot of that stuff is like, I don't fucking know. It's like, I just want people to pick it. When I hire people I'll hire them and then they'll be like, well, all right, here's your choices. I'm like, why do I have to make this choice? Can't you make the choice? What would you do? You know that you've done this before, but obviously there's an aesthetic thing, but then there's also a budget thing. I think you end up having to make so many compromises based on how much money you're willing to spend or can spend. So compromise is like one of the reasons why things end up the way they are. And I think in architecture in general, if you have unlimited budget, you're going to see some wild and crazy shit. And when you have a very limited budget, like what I had when I was building this, corners are cut and things don't work out exactly how you want them to work out. I mean, this as an architect. I speak to my architect friends all the time about this stuff. It's complicated. I mean, a lot of people can't take risks and do cool shit, because there's just ways that things are done. And then obviously there's code and permits and all this shit, so it's part of the reason why most stuff is so fucking boring now. We have to play it safe. There's just a lot of factors here. This. Do other people know it? Maybe not. Maybe they're learning something. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. This is over 10 years now, 11 years when I did it. I mean, it's felt like it was going to cost a fortune, or it did. I think when all was said and done, it was a little more than 20 grand. And that includes that door, which was $5,000, and the air conditioner, which I have had to replace, the split unit heater thing. But, $5,000 for this huge glass garage door, so painful at the time. But now it would be like 20 easy just to get that. So, everything feels so expensive in the time, but just give it 10 years and I swear you're going to be like, oh, damn. That's why if you can, just don't skimp. Like, even if it hurts at that moment, just go for it, because it's only going to get worse. If anything, it's fun just accomplishing something. That is like the best thing. It's something you can feel proud of. You know, everything looks good from far, but it's far from good. You know, I can go around and nitpick a million things. And I don't know, and maybe it's because like I empathize with gig workers and freelancers, and I don't get mad at them when things are taking too long or it's not right, because I know what it's like to work in that position and, you know, do the best you can with what you have and know that there's a million moving parts and the budget might not be as good. So I don't really yell at people to be like, this isn't fucking perfect. You know, like maybe I should, maybe things would be better, you know, but I'm just not an asshole like that. I'm just more of a passive aggressive asshole where like once that guy fucking finished and he couldn't even do the garage door, I had to hire someone else to do that. We never spoke ever again. You know, it was just one day I was away working on a job on the day that was the last time he was putting finishing touches on something. I just left a check, never saw him again, never talked to him again. Don't even remember his name. Sad. You spend so much time with someone and then they split, but also he was kind of an asshole. He was never really here. These things are complicated, man. You know, we all know. Thanks, Peter. Love hearing from you. Thanks for calling. That's it. That's the Hotline show. Yep, that's it. Do the stuff like subscribe, call the hotline. The number's in the description, or you can just email me a voice memo. Thank you to Gordon, Peter from Texas, Peter from Germany. I appreciate the calls. Thanks for sticking in with us this evening. I'm going to play my YouTube recommendations. It's about 10 minutes long, give or take. Goes on. If you just want to hear me, talk, just recommend stuff. Stay tuned. If not, I'll see you next time, maybe. I'm going to start with a few people that I know maybe watch this channel, and I watch theirs. Sort of like show of support, people I really love. Aaron Murray Vasquez talks about movies, but also making his own films. I love the stuff he makes, and I love his voice. Dean Peterson is another one. He actually did the chicken cam video that I played, maybe my second video here. Double Negative with Will Malone. I just like his perspective on photography. It's really just fun, and he really does a good job putting together his videos. Then beyond like photography, which it's funny that Dean and Aaron are both filmmakers. Will's a photographer, but I think it's really hard for photographers to do YouTube because photography is really something that almost shouldn't have video. And because video is a more powerful medium than photography. And if you're sort of making videos about photography, the video you're making about photography is going to be better than the photography. It's just the rule. And I know I break this rule when I do this, but this isn't really totally about photography. I mean, I guess it is in some ways because I am one, but more just trying to do random things and tell stories, I guess. Although I would never say I'm a storyteller. I hate that. Moving on. Cooking with clams. This is super random, and you have to be into like fishing or something, but it's my friend Will, who we go way back, high school days on Long Island, and he just started following me on Instagram a couple of years ago, and I checked in with what he's doing, and he's just like a fishing expert. And we actually did a video together a couple months back where we went to the nuclear power plant on Long Island, and caught a fish and cooked it. But his stuff, there's just something about him. He's such a good person, good vibes, and sort of that point of view of a fish. It's like watching a video game, and you hear his commentary, and then he catches a fish, and then he cooks it. Just kind of really nice to put up on the TV. Sorry about Kevin. And you just watch him do his thing. I don't know. It's just fun to watch. So I'm really into that. And I think he's growing, and it's cool to see his channel get popular. But it's very niche. And this is another thing. It's like, what are you into, right? Like, what do you want to watch? Obviously, there's politics out there. When it comes to politics, I watch a lot of Hassan Piker. So like there's a lot of channels that like clip his commentary Used to be super into it, less so lately. I'm just getting exhausted with the political commentary. So I'll like I'll moderate my position from like what might be a leftist to more moderate stuff. So I've become a little more moderate in the last like 6 months, but I'll still put on his stuff because I love his perspective, even though I probably agree with him like 90% of the time. And I think his perspective is, when it's right and feels good, it's dead on the money. And it's just entertaining. He'll also do pop culture stuff. Obviously, these are just clipped from his stream, Twitch streamer. What else is there? Oh, well, politically, I watched this show called The China Show. Very specific niche stuff about two guys who used to live in China, who now are back in the States, and their like perspective on what's happening in China. And if you're interested in that, it's very critical, but it's coming from the perspective of two people who like truly love that country. And I do think it's a fascinating country, but it's a country that has significant problems. And I think it's interesting to sort of hear from like their point of view, two guys who I think really truly know what's going on there and like telling us Americans what's going on. So that's good. What else we have here? This came across my feed the other day, and I probably watched 30 videos in the last like week of this guy, Arvin Hadid. And basically he watches real estate tour videos that are made by like the brokers or the sellers of mansions, mostly mansions. Sometimes it's a wide variety of stuff, but the feature is mostly like high-end, multi-million-dollar mansions, like up to the super high-end. And he watches these walkthrough videos and then stops and gives commentary on it. And it is so fascinating. And I think he's super funny, and his commentary on what we're seeing, because it's obviously like the real estate people like promoting it. So they're never going to say anything bad. So he will stop and be like, that's not a good view. You know, it's not a gorgeous view. That's a 5. It's just so good. He does a really amazing job. So I've been super into that. I'm not a huge gearhead, like a camera guy. Like, although I do, you know, obviously if I'm looking into some new gear, I'll watch videos about it to just like make sure I might like it or whatever. So I've gone into the YouTube camera guy rabbit hole. And one of my favorites is this guy, Camera Conspiracies. He's Canadian. Dude puts out a video every day, I think. Like, he's just a monster content creator. And he just talks about all the cameras, like every digital camera, every camera, film camera. It's mostly a vlogging, from a vlogging perspective more than a photography perspective, like straight photography. He's more of like a film guy, maker, but I don't know if he makes anything like other than reviews cameras, but he's super independent. I think camera companies hate him because he just tells it as it is. So there's not like sponsored bullshit. Like, he's just going to say the shit that he wants, and people send him cameras and he buys it with his own money. Guy, I think knows what he's talking about, and it's good, but you have to be into cameras, and it's just what you're into. Lastly, there's this one guy I came across called 4 Eyes Furniture, who like makes furniture so he's a woodworker, but he also somehow is like a master filmmaker, storyteller / like advertising guy. And I've watched some of his videos, and I'm just like blown away by the craft that this guy has, like just on every level. Like, if you just think making videos is hard, like, okay, and then he makes masterful furniture, and then he'll throw in an ad like that he produces that is like a perfect like just advertisement for a product that he created. It's just remarkable talent on the highest level. So that one's called 4 Eyes Furniture. There's a lot, obviously, like an infinite amount of interesting stuff on YouTube, and I only like scratch the surface with it. Those are a few things that I'll watch. If I see a new one come on, I'll definitely put it on. So good luck out there.